Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Henry's Dashboard Dialogues. This is where we take a look at our beautiful community of Glasgow, Kentucky, see some of the things that we're working on, some of the things we've accomplished, some of the things we have yet to accomplish. I'm excited about today's program because of the fact that this is the first time we've had to visit with the tourism director of Glasgow-Barren County, MacLean Lessenberry. How are you doing today, MacLean?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you here, and I'm glad to have you in that position as the tourism director. This is a position that you kind of took over in earnest when the Tourism Commission was revamped.
Yep, about 5 years ago.
5 years ago. You've had to learn a lot. Let's talk about the Barrens. One of the promotions that the Tourism Commission's been using is hashtag Better in the Barrens. I've seen some billboards. I've seen some other artwork that's been done on that. Let's talk about the Barrens, and how would you define the Barrens, MacLean?
Lots of people don't realize, but the Barrens is an entire region that encompasses more than just here in Barren County. We really have taken ownership of the name the last few years, with Barren County being our county name, of course. But really that came from back in the day when Native Americans were here hunting. The land was so lush they had to set it on fire to be able to hunt more easily. And so when settlers came into the area, they deemed it barren, even though, of course, we know we are one of the most agricultural counties in the state. So we really have pushed that, and that was really something that came out of when I first started, and we sort of assessed where we were tourism-wise. Big piece of that was we needed our locals to be excited and be our best ambassadors, and that wasn't necessarily happening. So Better in the Barrens was really a community pride initiative that was born out of that.
I like that explanation. See, if you stop and think about it, they burned it down and people still kept coming. And look where we are.
There we go, tourism.
Because there's so many reasons to come. And that, to me, is why that I'm glad we have the Division of Tourism to analyze what we have, analyze what we don't have, and then analyze who's looking. A week doesn't go by that I don't meet some people who are in our community just because they wanted to be here, just because there's something they wanted to see. Often it's Mammoth Cave National Park, but I can tell you, we've done a lot of work up at Fort Williams, and some of the people on the Fort Williams Commission, it's unbelievable how much traffic, how much Googling Fort Williams, Kentucky gets. The people just come just to see that. And that means that the job of the tourism director is multifaceted.
Oh, absolutely. It is. I never know what I'm going to be doing every day, and I love that about this job.
Well, and tourism is, in a way, kind of seasonal as far as different things going on at different times. But talk about what you've learned. What's the biggest shocker you've had when you started doing this job?
The biggest shock that I had is I always felt that I was super active in my community. I thought I knew a lot about my community, and I realized when I took this job, I didn't know half of what we had, honestly. So like I said, a big piece of that and what we've tried to do is making sure that everyone that lives here knows what we have, but we do still struggle with that with the national park. Mammoth Cave is our biggest attraction by far. It's a huge deal. People from all over the world. If you go to the visitor center and look at the license plates on the cars, you wouldn't even hardly believe it. But a lot of our locals have never even been there.
But it's one asset, one of many.
Oh, absolutely.
You actually said it best. You grew up here. And so you're like everybody else who grows up here that doesn't realize all of the attractions that we have, the number of things that people want to come here and see. Now, all of a sudden, you're shifting gears as the tourism director, making sure people know what we have here and how they get to it.
And I don't know if still a lot of our locals realize what a big role they play in the tourist experience when people are here. But I mean, if you think about going on vacation yourself, I mean, who you talk to that's local, that's a huge part of your experience.
The other thing to think about, we have the state park. We also have Cave City.
Absolutely.
Even further down the road, we have Park City. We can associate all that with Mammoth Cave National Park, but then there's so much that builds out from that, and that's just one section, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And our biggest push is always, you know, they come for the national park, but we want them to stay longer and hit the lake and Fort Williams and the cultural center, and we'll push them over to Hart County and pull them back from Edmonson County. And we work really, really collaboratively with those counties also that share the park with us land-wise. to make sure that we're keeping people here as long as possible.
As the tourism director, you have to wear two sets of hats. One is how do we accommodate those coming here for tourism? And then you've got to look around and say, what do we not have that we need to do better?
We have a lot, and outdoor adventure is really our bread and butter, and that does come from the national park. But like you said, we have a state park. We really are outdoor adventure if you look at it, and we love when people come here for that and then come downtown and have a pint at Auntie's or catch a show at the plaza after that. But really, we've got to look at what's drawing people here majority wise, and that is the outdoor adventure. So that is fabulous. What has needed work really, and I'm so thrilled to see where it is now versus 5 years ago, is downtown Glasgow. That's the first thing you hear at a conference or anything is your downtown's your heartbeat. If your downtown's healthy, it goes from there. And I think ours has had, just leaps and bounds of improvements. I'm so glad to see it where it is.
When I was maybe in high school, we started seeing the death of downtowns, and it was because of malls. And people were thinking, we're never going to survive if we don't put a mall here. Well, guess what? Malls are struggling now because people would rather be over here and be going to some of the many wonderful retail outlets we have right here in downtown Glasgow and enjoy the variety. It's not just one type of retail store, and we have several different eateries, several different ways to spend time, and you're right, the evolution.
Oh, it's been incredible.
We're seeing that develop. The Downtown Business Association, in working with tourism and working with Barrens Inc. and others, have come up with promotions to get people to come and be a part of downtown.
I mean, I love that. For us, I feel like it's very much governmental hand in hand with private, and that's something that a lot of communities don't have.
And of course, we have fabulous Airbnbs that have been developed here in the downtown area.
And one thing that we did really need, that we have now too, is like you were talking about, more upscale lodging that people are looking for, that maybe are willing to spend a little bit more money or want a little bit of a higher end experience. And we do have a lot of that with short-term rentals now, which is fabulous, especially downtown.
Talked about the state park. People like the nature trails, things of that nature, go down to the state park, but yet still spend an afternoon coming to Glasgow shopping and seeing some of these things. It truly is a family-oriented tourism destination.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, too, what really plays into that, again, is, the state park sends people into town. People in town, merchants will send people out to other attractions all across the county. And that, I feel like that has to be built organically, and I feel like that's really done well the past few years.
MacLean Lessenberry, appreciate you very much being here on our Henry's Dashboard Dialogue. That's the angle that we're looking at from the dashboard today, is the effort that's being put into a way for people to come and celebrate our community, do things they might want to do on a family vacation or on a company trip or just on a getaway. It's right here, and it is better in the Barrens.
Well, I'm going back to Glasgow.